Hello, manga and anime lovers. I'm Branch, and today I'm going to be talking about Demon Slayer, Season 4, Episode 8, the final episode. I have to say, despite my complaints with the season as a whole, this episode ended off on a fantastic note from beginning to end, with one slight exception, but it doesn't even really matter. Like, the beginning felt a little bit dragged out, especially since they replayed the whole epic Muzan walk. But in the end, it just culminated in a fantastic cliffhanger for the finale of the series. There's really only a couple of things I want to talk about, because even though this episode was really long, not a lot technically happened. First, we had the conversation between Muzan and the Master, and there was a lot of interesting things that were said. The most interesting things, I believe, that I took away from it. Well, first, the fact that it seems the Master and Muzan are distantly related. Like I suspected, he was either related to the Doctor or to Muzan himself. It also seems like the family line was cursed because a demon was born from it. I don't know how that works. That's a little suspicious. Like, I don't know if that's just how it is or if there's a specific reason. The only reason I get a little hung up on something like a curse is that so far this series has been pretty realistic in that it explains everything. There is no magic per se, with the exception of blood demon arts. But even still, all that boils down to a fantasy version of science, right? So a curse just feels a little weird. Like, I would understand if someone cursed them, like someone did something to them in order to make it so all the people born of that bloodline die early. But they don't really go into it. Maybe we'll go into it when we get a longer flashback for the first ever Demon Slayer. But until then, I guess it's just kind of nebulous what the curse is. Another thing I found interesting, and probably even more interesting to be honest, was the discussion on immortality and how Muzan is technically immortal because he can't die with the exception of being in the sun. And once he gets Nezuko, he won't even need to fear that anymore. But his legacy is not immortal. He doesn't leave anything behind because apparently if Muzan dies, then all the demons die. Now, this is obviously pretty bad because that means if they kill Muzan, then Nezuko and Tomoyo will also die. Tomoyo might be dead already. But all the few, like 3 good demons will also die. Unless it's only because they have a tie to Muzan through their blood. I'm not entirely sure. But I found that really interesting, and it harkens back to the biggest theme in One Piece, which is inherited will. So the Master has left behind all the people who remember him and carry on his legacy, whereas Muzan doesn't really leave behind anything. Even though there are some demons who worship him, like the Hashira do the Master, none of them can carry on if Muzan dies. They can't carry on his will. And it doesn't really matter because Muzan's will is only for himself. So even if they could survive, no one would carry on his legacy because his legacy would die with him. Whereas the Master literally dies this episode and it starts everything. And I guess that just brings us on to the climactic moment of this episode where Muzan goes to kill the Master and the Master just blows up the entire mansion along with his wife and 2 children. Now, I think that was a little bit extreme. The kids didn't have to be there with him. But it seems like he has more kids because I know I saw some black-haired ones in previous seasons. I don't know where they all are. Maybe only these 2 stay with him. But that was actually a little bit confusing for me. I thought Muzan was making the explosion. I was like, what? I don't remember this guy having fire powers. But no, as soon as Muzan flung out of the flames, burning up, I said, oh, you know what? I tip my hat to you, Master. That was a brilliant plan, and it worked too. I find it really nice that they almost defeat the bad guy in this episode. So Muzan, he's defeatable. He's not literally killable. They have to drag him into the sunlight, but he's not quite as invincible as he has seemed so far. Even the Stone Hashira manages to smash his head in, and that doesn't work, obviously. I don't think anyone thought it would, especially since the Upper Moons have a habit of not dying when their head is cut off. So Muzan obviously wouldn't die unless he was exposed to the sunlight. It's not something I really thought about, but it makes sense as soon as it happened. I didn't question it. I will say, the highlight of this episode was definitely the trap for Muzan and how multi-layered it was. First they had the explosion, then they had the shrapnel to slow his regeneration, then Tomoyo came out and injected him with the medicine to return to being human, which I don't think will work, but it should weaken him quite a fair bit, if only temporarily, and all they need is to weaken him until morning. And then, of course, the Stone Hashira, Gyomei, came out and, absolutely destroyed him. Oh, and there was the blood demon art of the man who was turned into a demon back in, what was the town? I don't remember, but back in season 1. I'm not sure how Tomoyo did it, like activated the man's demon art when the man wasn't hit there, but you know what? I don't really question it. We haven't really seen a lot of her, and I'm kind of disappointed in that one regard. I was really expecting to see her and Shinobu working together. Maybe we'll get a flashback to that. We definitely will get a flashback to what Shinobu was going to tell her disciple, but I really hope we get a flashback to what Tomoyo was doing as well. Another thing I really liked about this episode was the exploration into Tomoyo's character, her backstory. We didn't really go into it too much, but Muzan did mention about how she killed basically her entire family, like most demons do, after she was turned. And she responds that she just wanted to basically not die, and she was transformed into a demon against her will because she wasn't told what would happen. So just like Muzan did with a lot of the other demons where they were sick and he healed them, he did the same to her, and well, it went about the same way. And I don't know why I found this surprising, probably because she was basically a good demon, quote unquote, for the entirety of the story. But to find out that she's actually not too much different from a lot of the other demons, with the exception that she retained her humanity and she didn't give in to her desires after that initial, hunger. So I really liked that. It really put a lot of depth into Tomoyo's character. And we also got to see her make a whole bunch of expressions that we've never seen her make before. Mostly anger, to be honest. I really liked how we dove more into her character at the very end, especially because she is probably dead, or is going to be very soon. And really, that's basically all that happens. All the Hashira come together because, there is an attack, and they all get trapped in the Infinity Castle. And that's basically where it ends. I'm really interested to see how this fight will go. Obviously, I believe we have 3 upper moons left, if I'm not missing one. And we have 8 Hashira. Right? 8 Hashira? Something like that. We have around that number. So, quite a lot of them will die. I'll be surprised if half of them survive, to be honest. And the one thing that I expected to happen but didn't is that Nezuko was not captured. Now, that doesn't mean she wasn't captured off screen, but they didn't show it. So that gives me hope that she will not be captured after all, and she might come to actually join the fight later on. We'll see. A man can dream, right? And the final thing, I really liked that it was Gyomei that carried out the plan, because he was the first one the master recruited from the looks of it. And now he's the one who sets up the final trap. He's the final trump card, again, to start this war with the demons. I really like that. It gives a lot more depth to Gyomei, and also to the master, too. We've only seen the master as this super kind and down-toned individual, but now we understand that he's actually, if not as capable of cruelty as Muzan, almost to that same level, but he just keeps it in check and waits to unleash it on his enemy at the right moment. Aside from all that, there's not really much else to talk about this episode. I mean, the animation was flawless, amazing, fantastic. The sound design, flawless, amazing, fantastic. The pacing, much better than previously, although I think it could have been a little shorter. And the ending was absolutely wonderful. And now I've heard that there are going to be 3 movies to close off the series, and I cannot wait. I will be seeing them all in theater, and I'll be reviewing them on this channel. I'll probably make a season wrap-up video for this, just to discuss my thoughts on the season as a whole, and I do have quite a bit of them. But until then, I'll see you some other time, hopefully in the next video. Bye.